2 of the Koi Perspective. My name's Joe Mitchell. Thank you for tuning in again. This video we're off to see a dealer who has been probably my main koi dealer over the last couple of years. I first got in contact with Chris. He refused to sell me a fish. My pond was freezing cold and he basically said, you know, come and pick it up in the spring. And at the time I thought, who is this guy? I just want to buy this fish, like, you know, I just want to have it in my pond and everything else. Probably one of my favourite ponds in the UK is Chris's main sales pond, and hopefully I'll get a chance to show that to you today. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to visit Japan with Chris in November 2022. We went over there with my wife and Chris was there at the same time. It was right just after Japan opened the borders for international borders for COVID. So the country was still a little bit, you know, apprehensive about tourists coming back into the country. But we were extremely well received by the breeders that Chris works with, Okawa Koi Farm. I managed to see Okawa whilst I was there as well, and really opened my eyes up to koi breeding in general. And it's not often, I mean, Chris doesn't take people to Japan on like koi trips or anything like that. We were just fortunate enough to be there with him and, you know, to go around with him. And I do get the feeling that Chris obviously, you know, he's doing this more as a hobby rather than something to make money. And I think if the hobby pays for him to go to Japan once a year and do his hobby, so to speak, then I think Chris is happy with that. So I'm really excited to bring you this video today. It's not going to be for everyone, and I understand that, but I really think it might be a little bit eye-opening into a different koi dealer who's kind of away from the status quo in terms of the brands that they work with and things like that. But yeah, I'm really keen to see what you guys think, and we'll get into it and get to Chris's. Hi and welcome to issue 2 of the Koi Perspective magazine. I'm with Chris Masters from Koi Masters. How are you doing?
I'm all right, Joe.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here today. I think it'll be a bit of an eye-opener for some people who have not had access, I guess, to Koi Masters behind the scenes. You've not, you know, some of this stuff showing your ponds and your shipments not available online for people. So it's nice to kind of go behind the curtain for people and show them what you've got going on. But you've obviously been around the hobby for a long time. What was the first memory of koi for yourself?
First koi I got cost me 50p each. At the same time I had some trout in my pond and I put the small koi in not thinking, and within 20 minutes 4 of them were gone. But 2 survived and they grew, and I was quite surprised, amazed even by the growth. And that's where it all started, 1980 I think. Right.
So were they just like common carp, or were they?
No, they were bred koi. The guy who introduced me to koi was a guy called Jim Grain from Hoyland near Barnsley.
So that's when the obsession began for you then?
And yes, obsession, it's the right word.
And so what made you kind of decide to become a koi dealer then? Was it something in particular, or?
I retired in 1995 from my career, and I needed something to keep me going. I'd been going to Japan for a couple of years at that point, and so I started in business,
yeah,
if you like.
Okay, yeah. And so obviously keeping koi and everything, it's always been here in this house for you, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And you've obviously built pond as you've gone from 1995.
This house was recorded as the most subsidence damaged property ever in the UK. It went from being a perfect house, condemned in 4 days. And when it was rebuilt, there was a hole that must have been 50 foot deep filled with sand and compacted and black to try and stop any movement again, and touch wood, it seems to have worked.
Right, okay, yeah. And you've obviously built these ponds from then, and this main pond then, how big is it? What filters are you running?
This main pond is 7,000 gallons. It's 7 foot deep at one end, and when I built it initially, I had to have bottom drains made because they didn't really exist.
Right.
And all the filtration was block built, and we're actually sat where it was, and it didn't work that well. This pond, by the way, has got no concrete under it whatsoever.
Really?
And bear in mind, this is the worst subsidence damaged property in the UK.
So what's it actually sat on then, like sand and gravel? Or?
Yes, it's sat on the strata.
Wow.
But it's 2 layers of fiberglass, and it's been here,
And
God knows, nearly 40 years.
wow. And the filters that you've been running then since it's been built, has it changed much since the very start?
The filters have evolved, and I never remove and change filters. I always add to.
Yeah.
So you can see all the showers that are dotted about, and we're actually sat above a large RTF multi-bay, and there's another large RTF multi-bay and the bead filter.
Wow.
And there's an 8 foot deep vortex in this corner, which was the original thing that I built with the filtration.
Amazing. Well, it's definitely not under-filtered then, it's got enough filters on here.
Yeah, and the media that's in it, there is a mixture because there's a lot of Japanese matting because it was the bee's knees 30 odd years ago. But now I believe that sintered glass, crystal bio, Backy house, in the shower filters is the best form of filtration you can get.
Yeah.
I do not like moving bed. I did try it, but I'll stick to what I know works for me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And you actually keep koi, relatively, I'd say traditionally, in terms of you're not obsessed with water clarity.
Not at all. It's very clear at the moment because all really they're getting fed is their vegetable matter.
Yeah. We actually feed them quite a lot of vegetable matter as well.
Yes, they do. They get plenty of cabbage. Well, I don't like it, so they can have it.
And they've been on sprouts as well recently.
Yeah. Someone brought me some sprouts. Would they eat them? Well, yes, they do. There's a couple floating over there.
And usually on a Sunday, you'll see on Chris's Facebook, they might occasionally get a leftover Yorkshire pudding as well.
Their favourite.
But no, I think for me, when I was a hobbyist, I mean, I've been coming here probably since the start of the hobby. And I think sometimes you can read too much online about how to keep koi and different opinions and things like that. I think for yourself, your method is extremely simple, but to some people, they'd view it as maybe more complicated because it's so simple. I don't know, like the simplification of it might complicate some people, if you know what I mean, because it goes against about what you might read from other people online, if you know what I mean.
I think I'm quite fortunate in my water supply. It's neither hard nor soft, or but it is low on carbonate hardness, so I have to add bicarb on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Because I keep it at 4 to 6 degrees. It seems to work for me.
Yeah.
All fresh water, I have no water filtration. When I do my filter maintenance, I just spray in fresh water, fine spray, and that seems to evacuate all the chlorine. If I sense that there's any chloramine in, i.e. that my tea doesn't taste so nice, I don't use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My philosophy has been I try and do things as cost effectively as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I bet it costs you about as much to run this pond as it might do for somebody who's running a different pond that's half the size, to be fair. I know you've got probably a lot of pumps running in here in terms of for all your showers and things, but yeah, it's not exactly what I would cost as expensive to run what you've got going on here.
No, it is heated.
Yeah.
And at the moment it's just dropping because their winter period is a little bit delayed this year. But they're now down to 13 degrees.
And so some people might have heard the name Koi Masters from Koi Masters Advantage as well.
Yeah.
To tell people why you came up with that and a bit about it.
When I installed this bead filter, because I'd never seen one before, but I wanted something to help me with water clarity, I actually read the instructions, which is most unlike me. And at the bottom of page 4, in big bold type, it said, "This filter will not work unless the liquid to be filtered is at least 4 degrees carbonate hardness." What the hell was that? So I started to look into it, and I came up with Advantage to try and help boost carbonate hardness. And it does to a certain extent, but not enough. When I'm feeding this pond in the summer, I can put up to 1 kilo of food a day in, and the filtration needs to be top notch. So I add bicarb on a regular basis.
But the advantage as well, I think it does definitely do something for the skin, the luster.
Well, everybody seems to say so. I don't know why. It's not the reason I came up with initially. As I say, it was for the carbonate hardness side, but that seems to be a side effect. Water clarity, fish appetite seems to be, they definitely eat more when the water's got Advantage in it, and yeah, it works for me.
Yeah. And so, going back to the koi side of it, you've been sourcing fish from Japan for a long time.
Since 1992.
1992. And, you know, I know that you work with select breeders, and you stick to those breeders. But I guess, tell us how you started sourcing fish in Japan.
I first visited Okawa Koi Farm in 1992 with my brother, and Clearwater Koi as it then was. And at that time Ogata bred Sankey, Kahaku and Ginrin Showa.
Yeah.
And some Kumonryu that a lot of them went for food fish. And in talking to him, one of the things he said was the choice is a little bit restricted, and perhaps more varieties become a one-stop shop, and I think that's what Ogata-san has tried to do, and very successfully. It doesn't breed everything, but I don't think there are any breeders who sell a lot of different varieties do breed them all. But Ogata is extremely careful when he brings anything onto the koi farm. His quarantine setups are well away from main farm in the main, and they are 7,000 gallon ponds, all absolutely individually set up, heating, filtration, everything. So I believe there's been no traces of KHV in Kyushu for 4 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's good. Joe, you said I go to Ogata, Suetsugu, Okawa, Ueno, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And I have 5 systems which I can heat ramp, so if I were to go to a 5th, I can keep them separate.
Yeah.
So I know if I get a problem, I know exactly where it's come from.
Yeah, which is really important.
Well, I think so. It seems to work for me.
Yeah, I think there's, dealers can sometimes, stock from a million different breeders, and, for yourself it's added security and removes that level of complexity from being a dealer, I suppose, as well.
In many ways it restricts the varieties I can offer, but I prefer the peace of mind in knowing the people that I've dealt with for a long time. I actually stay with the Suetsugu family when I visit, so one less a lot of hotel bills.
It's very lovely though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you've always been quite proud of the fact that you've been able to supply koi in this country that have been able, at prices that are, you know, not expensive, but have then competed well at onshore results as well.
Yeah.
You've won quite a few awards, you know. A couple
Baby
of
champion
baby
twice
champions.
at the national with fish I've supplied, and lots of prizes in the local. Best Gujaku in the national. Yeah, and
Best
people.
Asagi at the
Yeah.
Great British Koi Show.
That's right. And people get, I think, value for money.
Yeah, no, and that's I think that's one of the main things, is that you don't stock fish that are ridiculous money here.
In some places, some of them maybe I've turned down a big offer for that big shiro on numerous occasions, but it's one that I promised I wouldn't sell from the gentleman I bought it off in Japan. I tried to buy it when it was 2-year-old, along with the fish that I did buy that became best koi size 4 at the national for Stephen White, the then chairman of the BKKS. But I eventually bought it off the hobbyist in Japan who had bought it,
Right.
and he asked me not to sell it for profit, so I haven't done.
There you go.
It's about 9 years old now.
And you know what? In the time that you've been sourcing fish from Japan, how has that changed for you? Like more recently, more auctions, more things moving online.
Yeah, bought more from Ogata auction, that's for sure.
Do you think it's healthy for the
It's healthy for the breeders, that's for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. But I don't mind, it allows me to perhaps see some of the fish that I wouldn't normally see, because I'm only in Japan for a limited time.
Yeah, but it's nice sometimes. I think maybe we always jump to the conclusion that the auctions are there to make the breeders more money, and I think they certainly do make some, you know, percentage difference. But then again, you've sent me auction listings before that Ogata have done, and then I've flicked through them as a hobbyist and asked you to bid on a few things for me.
Yeah.
And so it might result in a sale for you, if you know, because they're putting the effort in Japan. But I think you can look at it both ways, can't you?
One of the things that I've known the Ogata family a long time now, and I've known when he's had a lot of people on the koi farm that he can become stressed, because he's got to look after people, and at night they've done a long day's work and then they've got to take them out, and they are fantastic hosts.
Yeah.
The thing I've noticed since the advent of his auctions, and perhaps there are less people on the farm and he's less stressed, which is good.
But he still works hard, doesn't he?
Oh.
You know, I don't
Yeah.
think you'll mind me saying that Ogata is a very successful koi farm, and I think if he wanted to, he could probably retire. But I doubt that he would ever retire, Manabu.
No. He told me that when he was 70, he was going to go back to his first love, and that's as a koi hobbyist, and that there would be a new president. But whether or not that happens, I don't know.
And then your hobby now is obviously this, I think. You know, I started the video in the car talking about how I think for you now it's less of a, you know, business entity for you and more of a hobby, I think, keeping koi and going to Japan. And
Yeah, it always has been, really. And these koi, when I used to work, I had what I think was a high-pressured job. They kept me sane.
But if that hobby gets you to Japan every year, I suppose, and allows you to go visiting and doing that, it's good, isn't it?
That's right.
And what would you say now is your favourite variety?
I like Ginrin Shower and always have. I find Kahaku a little bit boring. I appreciate them, and as you can see, I've got 1 or 2 in the pond. But I think prefer shower as a variety. Sankey I would love, but you can't get sankeys like I like, small sumi. It's always, these days, it's always big, black, heavy sumi.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've got 1 in the pond now, where it is. Yeah.
But that's the hard part of, I suppose, being a dealer, is adjusting your taste to what people like as well, isn't
Well, that's my big problem, because I tend to only pick fish that I like, and it's not necessarily what other people like.
And you've recently taken a shipment of koi this year from fish that you bought at back end of last year.
From auctions and from the open sale.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and those will be available for viewing and purchasing.
They're available for viewing now, but they'll not be released in towards the end of February.
Yeah. But some really nice fish on there that people should come and make an appointment. That's the main thing, isn't it? You know, this facility that you've got is in your house, and you know, people, it's not necessarily a case of just rocking up, it's making appointments in advance.
We have to make sure that I'm going to be here, because sometimes I'm away helping people with the ponds or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
But at the moment, some of the koi are in acriflavin because I found white spot of all things. I haven't seen it for donkey's years. And the other fish that I brought in, I found 1 or 2 small flukes, so they're in fluke, but you can't tell that.
Yeah.
They're being treated for flukes, but by tomorrow, the white spot and the flukes will all be gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've. I certainly think if you're in the area, it's well worth a pop in to come and view this main pond.
And anybody's welcome.
Yeah.
Just give me a ring. Phone number's readily available.
I think this main pond is one of my favourite ponds in the UK, though.
Yeah, but whatever you do, don't expect everything clean and tidy and yeah. At work I wouldn't have a paperclip out of place, but I'm afraid here it's a little different.
Yeah, but no, I enjoy coming and having a natter with you and catching up on all things koi. So if you're looking, you can find Chris Masters on Facebook, his personal Facebook, or you do have a website, but you
don't maintain it.
You don't maintain it.
No.
But you have listed a couple of koi in the Koi Perspective magazine for sale as well. So hopefully we'll continue with that, and we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for tuning in.